Hey guys, this is Jay Calderon with Jay Unboxing here, giving you my personal prediction for the rematch between heavyweights Alexander Povetkin and Dillian Whyte. Now, before we get into it, just remember this is only my take. Yours can be left down in the comments, and I'd love to hear them all. As mentioned, this is a rematch between Dillian Whyte versus Alexander Povetkin. No title on the line at heavyweight. It will be taking place in Gibraltar on Saturday, airing live on DAZN. And back in August of 2020, Whyte was well in control of their initial encounter, having dropped his Russian throat twice. However, a perfectly placed left uppercut dropped Whyte, and he was out before he hit the deck in the fifth. Interesting clash, as one was winning the battles but ultimately lost the war in a single second. Who can duplicate their success and avoid their failures? Let's get into it. For Whyte to win, I think he needs to attack the body. He had some success doing that early in the fight, and I think Povetkin came across as a bit unsturdy in that encounter, and if he can continue to take the wind out of the older man, it'll allow for him to have a lot more success hurting him and ultimately having more control over the encounter. He has to do that when he's inside a little bit more, obviously, when it's safer, so he's not extending himself. But that, I think, is ultimately a better part of his strategy anyway, because you don't want the faster hands, the more experienced hands being able to outbox you from the outside anyway. The other thing he needs to make sure he does is keep that left hook tight. He dropped Povetkin twice with left hands. One was more of a kind of corkscrew uppercut, but nonetheless a left hook. The issue was he also got stopped by the left hand. So he needs to make sure that he's the one coming forward, as mentioned, and that when he's throwing that left hand, he's in control of the distance, the pace, and of course the direction of the encounter. If he's going backwards when he's throwing it, or if he's getting turned by an angle of Povetkin, that leaves him vulnerable. Whereas if he's pushing his man back, that leaves him in the best possible situation. And as I have mentioned several times here now, push your man back. If you can make sure that Povetkin's power is taken away because he's more on the back foot, he's having to use more energy because he's walking backwards, you're hitting that body and you're throwing those left hands successfully, tight and successfully, the older man is going to be in a lot more trouble than if you're allowing him to walk forward and then again hit you with those angles and set the sort of traps that he's looking to set as an offensive fighter. Now, for Povetkin to win, he needs to give his man some of those angles, as we mentioned. Of course, it's always, you got to do the opposite of what your opponent wants you to do. So that means you got to move forward a little bit more. Now, this can walk you in to some of those shots, but you have to be able to hit those angles to land anything successful against Whyte, who's a bit of an unorthodox fighter to begin with. When you hit him with those angles, that tends to trip him up a little bit more. Can be clumsy at times, and that can set him up for some of those big shots like that left hand that stopped him in the first encounter. What you also want to do is you want to counter over the top, especially of those body shots. Now, again, I think it's imperative that Whyte throw those body shots, but if he's throwing them from too far out and Povetkin has the strength and the ability in his legs to push back a little bit faster than Whyte expects and then counter over the top with a straight left or a right cross, something to that effect, he has a much better chance of catching his man coming in and having that sort of double impact effect that might hurt Whyte if he continues to walk into those sorts of shots. So if he can make sure he creates distance when going backwards, or if when he's going forward he's in control of the distance, it'll allow for him to counter over the top. Finally, I think the sooner the better when it comes to Povetkin. I don't think he's a sort of fighter in this position in his career where he's trying to take the younger man into deep water and test him. I think if Povetkin goes into deep water, he's probably most in trouble. They might both be in trouble, but as an older man that's aging, I would expect that Whyte would have a little bit more left in the tank, as he's shown in some fights where he's had tough encounters that have gone 12 rounds. To me, Povetkin wants to catch him relatively early and make sure that he can kind of end the night before it becomes too much for his older legs to bear. Now, this is a tough one when it comes to my pick, and it's, again, a tale of whether or not Whyte wins everything except the last exchange, or if he can correct that mistake. And from Povetkin's standpoint, if he can minimize some of the damage he had to take in order to land those kind of angular shots, I have to go with what I think is most likely to occur, and I think that that's going to be Whyte having it in him, provided that he walks his man backwards, to stop his foe because he hits him with some better, more succinct left hands. Because let's be honest, if one of those left hands was a little stronger in that first fight, Povetkin doesn't get up. I think that Whyte becomes a little more aggressive in this fight, takes a little more chances, maybe gets hit a little more, could get stopped again. It's always possible in heavyweight boxing, but I don't see that happening. I see him walking his man down a little bit more, landing those left hands, digging to the body, ultimately getting a stoppage in the middle rounds. In terms of the betting odds, Dillian Whyte is a minus 400 favorite, with Povetkin coming in at a plus 250. A little bit odd considering the verdict in the first fight, but I think most people are like me, that they think Whyte can, as the younger man, fix those issues, come out a little bit better in this rematch, and probably win. However, I will say, if you're a betting man who wants an underdog that has a real good shot of winning, Povetkin is a fairly attractive option for, a kind of small to mid-sized bet for your bankroll. My prediction record this year is 8-4-1 with 4 exact. Let me know what you guys think and how your bets have been going so far. Would love to hear your thoughts, predictions, all that in the comments below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, follow, all that stuff at jcalderon_JOB. You can email me at jonboxing@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. Also, be sure to check out jonboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, rankings, and more. And as always, until next time.